Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradari. Jaya Gopi
Vijana Vallabha Girivaradari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girvaradari.
Jaya Vijana Vallabha Girvaradari.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana
Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Soni Mataji, for singing the Jaya Radha Madhava. We move on to Shashwin Prabhu. Shashwin Prabhu, if you can start with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya and then read the text 14, and then we can do the Manglacharan after you read the text. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloker Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Sarvam Kalakritam Manye Bhavatam Chayara Priyam Sapalo Yadvase Loko Vayorivaganavali. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Let's embark on the Manglacharan, Shashwin Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shcha Shri Rupam Sakrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvedam Swavadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Kopisha Kopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushtute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kirpa Sindhuvacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dhara Shrivasadi Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Soni Mataji and Shashwin Prabhu. Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody who have joined in this group and are about to join. And Prabhuji, those who would also see it on the YouTube channel if they've missed today. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 9. And the text for today is text 14, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I would like to introduce you a little later on. So yes. I can probably hand over to you, Prabhuji, or if you would like us to do the word-to-word translation and purport, we are very happy to do that as well.
It's okay, Mataji. I'll start the session first, and I'll read the purport as we go along. Just at the start, in a couple of slides' time. I'm just going to share my slides, if that's okay, Mataji. And thank you so much.
Yes,
for the
Prabhuji, you can share the slides. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mataji. I'm going to just ask for the blessings of the Vaishnavas, or the senior Vaishnavas who are gathered. Please bless me so I can speak under Bhagavatam in the association of the Vaishnavas, which purifies the heart and develops and strengthens the attachment to Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Thank you. Krishna.
It's a group of very small devotees. We meet every day, even over the weekends. We started 3 years ago, and we haven't stopped since we've started.
Yeah, honestly, I've heard great things. I've heard great things, and it's great that you've got a congregation that's so enthusiastic. It's really nice, Matthew. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak among the Vaishnavas. I'm sure there's very senior Vaishnavas, and I feel a bit embarrassed to speak in front of them. But I'm going to do it as a service to the devotees and my spiritual master.
We are all starting, so whatever you say will be new for us. We are just beginning our journey.
Thank you. So Hare Krishna, everyone. My name is BirChandra Das, and today we're talking on the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 9, verse 14. And yes, thank you so much again for the opportunity to speak and share some of my realizations and some of my understanding on the Bhagavatam from my own listening and my own reading. So can you please let me know if you can see the slides? You can see them, yes?
Yes, Prabhuji, we can see the slides.
Okay, so today, the agenda for today's session is looking at the introduction, finding a balance, and meditations. This is all in relation to time. So it's introduction, brief introduction on time itself, finding a balance. This is referred to things I've learned from other senior Vaishnava speakers. A short meditation about time, and a takeaway exercise, and then opportunity for asking questions and answers, not just from myself, but also other members who are joining today, other devotees. So before we start, so this is an introduction on the concept of time, Vedic and non-Vedic conception of time. So before we start, I'd like to read the purport to the verse. It's not very long, but will provide a good context to the session. So I'll start reading. Please forgive me for looking at my screen on my phone while I'm reading this. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So the translation to the verse is, in my opinion, this is all due to inevitable time under whose control everyone in every planet is carried, just as the clouds are carried by the wind. So the purport, there's control by time all over the space within the universe, as there's control by time all over other planets. All the big gigantic planets, including the sun, are being controlled by the force of air, as the clouds are carried by the force of air. Similarly, the inevitable Kala, or time, controls even the actions of the air and other elements. Everything, therefore, is controlled by the Supreme Kala, a forceful representative of the Lord within the material world. Thus, Yudhishthira should not be so sorry for the inconceivable action of time. Everyone has to bear the actions and reactions of time as long as one is within the conditions of the material world. Yudhishthira should not think that he has committed sins in his previous birth and is suffering the consequence. Even the most pious has to suffer the condition of material nature. But a pious man is faithful to the Lord, for he is guided by the bona fide Brahmana, the Vaishnava following the religious principles. These three guiding principles should be the aim of life. One should not be disturbed by the tricks of eternal time. Even the great control of the universe, Brahmaji, is also under the control of that time. Therefore, one should not grudge being thus controlled by time, despite being a true follower of religious principles. So for today's session, we'll be focusing on time, the concept of time and how it can be utilized. Utility is a principle of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada used to say this a lot, and I've read this often. So books are the basis, preaching is the essence, utility is the principle, and purity is the force. The key word here is utility. It's utilized and it's not controlled. So that's a key word, utilized, not controlled. So time in a non-Vedic sense is considered as a number or a coordinate that allows people to in general to navigate. So according to a particular time zone, you can know your location. For example, I'm here in the UK and you're in Kenya. And there's a different time zone. So according to the time, we know what location you're in. And according to time, we can undertake our activities. So an adult, for example, we start and finish work at a particular time. Start work at 9 on average, and you finish at 5, just like I've just finished work. And children, they start school at a particular time and they finish school at a given time. So we can estimate what time it is by looking outside also and having a guess. So if I look outside now, it's very dark. So I already know it's the evening. Whereas if you might look outside, it's maybe light still. And you can understand that it's still the daytime yet. So if I was to look outside, like I said, it's different, very different in terms of time zone. So there's an element of navigation there as well. So recently with the time change, just wanted to ask a question. So recently, did you feel that it was earlier than it was? For example, in the UK, the time went forward by an hour, and we lost, I think it was forward by an hour or back an hour. So basically, there was a change in time due to the concept of daylight savings, which is an attempt to manipulate time for like work purposes, mainly sort of agricultural purposes. So looking at it from a Vedic conception, so the Vedic conception of time is very different. So time is referred to as a Kala Chakra. Kala is time, and Chakra is referred to as a circle. So you often see videos, I'm not sure if you've seen, but you can probably YouTube these or Google these. You often see videos where videographers have set up a camera and they've turned the shutter function when the shutter closes, when they're taking a picture, they've turned it off. And they basically start recording the sky as the day goes, and even during the night. And as the time passes, you can observe the stars and planets that are moving in a circular motion. So almost because you've got the horizon here and you've got a circular motion, so you can see the stars moving like this and the different planets. And this occurs all the time, but it's less visible in the day due to the absence of the darkness and city pollution, etc. So time is active, so we can understand that. And there's an extensive description of time in Canto 11 of the Bhagavatam. So we are covering the concept of time very briefly to provide some context. So time is active, is an active potency of Krishna which manipulates the material energy. That's a very important point. So time is manipulating material energy. So time is, for example, my body is made of material energy, and time is manipulating that material energy, and it's my body. A clear example is we are born, we grow. So I'm growing. So, for example, Ashwin Prabhu, his son, sang the Mangalacharan and the prayer so nicely. So he's also growing, and eventually he'll become a very nice devotee because he started practicing Krishna consciousness at such a young age. And so we grow and we produce some effects. And then once you produce some effects, the body dwindles, and then time destroys the body. So that's also in the Bhagavatam. There's a reference to that, of the unit of time, which is manifest in the body. So can anyone guess what it is? Please take a guess. You can just unmute yourself and guess how the unit of time is manifest in the body. No? Okay, all right. So this manifestation of time is the breath, or prana. In the scriptures, it's called prana. So which is about 4 seconds long. So you can do a very quick exercise just to convince us of this statement. So normal relaxed breathing takes about 4 seconds. So you can breathe in and then breathe out. That's around 4 seconds. Yeah, and that's a proof of scripture that there's a manifestation of time in our breathing, just as the scripture says. And according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many pranas which make up a 24-hour day period. And these reflect the rotation of the stars and the planets. So as it's going down, so as every prana, every breath, there's basically a shift of the stars and the planets in a circular motion. That's happening all the time. So this is going on continually, and this is also reflected in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the second canto, 3rd chapter, 17th verse. Both, and this is a translation of the verse. So both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of everyone, except one who utilizes that time by discussing topics of the all good personality of Godhead. So scripture also says that there is no loss or diminution of spiritual activities. And that's from the Bhagavad Gita, from chapter 2, verse 40. So any activities that we conduct, spiritual activities, there's no loss, even if the body is lost, because the spirit soul is eternal. And again, referring to time, so time also relates a lot to astronomy. So based on the particular time and day that you were born, you have a particular internal and external personality. So the actual body is a manifestation of the material nature according to the time that you were born, and also the 3 modes of material nature. So that's a manifestation. The body is a manifestation of that, sorry. Okay, so this is just a reference from Srila Prabhupada, from the Bhagavad Gita. So among all kinds of killers, time is the ultimate because time kills everyone. So recently I listened to a lecture, and often in countries, developing countries, developed countries, they often given a figure of mortality, per 100,000. They say it's like 1.5, 3.5, 5, sometimes higher. When Prabhupada made a reference, he said, death is inevitable. It's guaranteed. So it's 100%. It's not 1 out of 1,000 or 1.5 or 1 out of 1,000. It's 100%. It's everybody. So everyone dies. So this is just in reference to that statement made by Srila Prabhupada. So time is the ultimate because time kills everything. So next we're going to move on and look at sort of how to find the balance. So this is actually something that I summarized from my own sort of reflection from His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj's lecture on time itself, and he talked about finding the balance. So I myself, I've done this exercise, like I said, and I learned new things about myself by doing them. So by doing this and completing the list of questions, you will learn something about yourself also. So before we start, I'd like to ask everyone a question. So what does balance look like for you? What does it look like? Does it look like this? Does it look like this? Is this your goal? Is this your goal? So do you want your balance to be exactly like the stones? It's just 50-50. You know, it looks well balanced. But what about this? What about this picture, the next one? This is also balance, right? This is also balance. So if you look at the slide and you look at the picture on the right, that's balanced. But the person riding the motorcycle, he's also balanced. So balance can look very different for very different people based on their circumstance. So it's important not to judge, because we never have a holistic view of someone else's life. Only our own life. We can only have that view on our own life. So there are many angles from which one's activities can be viewed. So just as someone raises one finger, so it can be viewed from many angles. So I'm viewing my finger from this angle, you're viewing it from this angle, someone else is viewing it from this angle, someone else is viewing it from this angle. So there's always different perspectives to a particular, like for example, object, or even Shastra. There's always a specific angle on Shastra. So Shastra can be applied within context to different situations. So that's really important to understand. And there's different types of balance. So there's the picture on the right, and then there's a picture on the left. So there's a person on a motorbike. He's not even touching the floor, but he's balanced because he's got control. He's got control of the activity that he's doing, right? So if someone does actually share the results of this questionnaire, so it's almost like a questionnaire, what we're going to do now with you. So please don't judge them. Please don't judge them. Just help them, support them, and help them grow in Krishna consciousness. So we'll start with the questions. And with the questions, I want everyone to actually answer 1 or 0. This is replicating Keshav Maharaj's exercise. And it's a really beautiful exercise because it allows you to understand if you're in balance or not, and how you're utilizing your time, and if you should have any regret about your time. I will focus on a few pointers that Maharaj shared also on how one should approach time, and how one should find a balance. Maharaj gave a nice example. He goes, if you want to go to a destination and you leave the destination, and a few meters down the road, the car breaks down, and the person who's meant to put the petrol in said they didn't have any time. You know, so it's important that time is utilized correctly. So this is what we're going to try to look at with this exercise, on how time is utilized, and how, you know, for myself, or an aspiring devotee who wants to actually find a balance in utilizing my time in Krishna consciousness. So when you answer these questions, just please answer 1 or 0. And there's basically a sort of like a categorizing system, which Keshav Maharaj explains, which will explain the scoring a bit later on. So I'll start by asking the questions, and then maybe you can note these down, or I can share the questions a bit later on, and then you can sort of complete these in your own time and see where you're at with finding the balance, or your balance in your life. So the first question is, I do not read books or upgrade my knowledge every day. So do you read Shastra? Do you read something that helps you grow every day? It doesn't have to be something that's like a chapter or a whole book. It can just be one verse. It can just be one line of one verse. It can be just one word of one verse. It can be anything small, but do you read every day? Or say, so that's the question. Do you read every day to upgrade your knowledge every day? And then the second one is, I usually end each day with a huge list of things to do. Is that you? I know, for example, I finished the day. I had a quick meeting just before this session, and I've got a whole list of things to do, you know, and I guess that's also my karma. But yeah, moving on. So I feel uncomfortable or uneasy when I have time off or no pressing responsibilities. Have you ever felt like that? Have you felt uncomfortable or uneasy when you've had time off or no pressing responsibilities? How do you deal with that? I regularly have a backlog of people that I need to contact or messages to answer from those people. You know, this next question, I feel like all my energy is taken up for work, career, and I have little energy left for anything else. Is that a 0 or a 1 for you? I feel like my spirituality is mechanical. So I must get these things done. For example, like there might be some arti that you haven't done and you just want to complete because you just want to feel guilty before you go to sleep. That I've had this personally. For example, woken the deities up and rushing for work, and I've not been able to do Guru Puja, and then I do Guru Puja a little bit later on, but I do it just sometimes the guilt is there, like, oh, I have to serve Srila Prabhupada on the altar. And yes, so the responsibility is there. So I consciously avoid spending time with others because I have too many things to do. How often are we connecting with devotees? How often are we connecting with family members, with our spouse, with scripture? You know, because the acharyas are also personalities in the books.
Sorry to cut through. Huge apologies, but a very silly questions. Are we scoring ourselves 1 if it's a yes or if it's a no?
If it's a yes, then it's 1, and if it's a 0, sorry, thank you so much for clarifying that point. Yeah, thank you. I missed that. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, 0 or 1. So 1 if it's a yes, and 0 if it's a no. So I rarely introspect on my life direction. So an interesting question is, where am I going? What am I doing? Am I achieving my goals? Am I achieving them? I rarely do charity or welfare work, which is for the benefit of people. I don't know. So are we using all our time for ourselves, or are we actually using it to give something to others? You know, and a nice quote I've got from His Holiness Kadamba Maharaj is life is just not for living, life is for giving. Life is for giving. So I'll be giving something to others. I find it hard to sleep or don't get enough sleep. So there are different levels of sleep. So quantity or quality. The mind is too active and you can't sleep. So do you find it hard to sleep or don't get enough sleep? I've lost friendships over anger or disrespecting another person, sorry. So this is a good indicator of how you're using your time. So if you are losing friendships, then you can understand that you are not giving your time to others. So this is different in the context of taking care of oneself by establishing healthy boundaries around the relationship. So it's important to respect oneself if the relationship's not healthy. So in that context, it's different. But am I losing friendships because I'm not giving time to others? So I rarely think about God or Krishna consciously or pray to him. So when is the last time I sort of sat in front of the altar, prayed to the deities, had a conversation with the deities, tried to develop a relationship with the deities? So when friends ring me, I rarely have time to have an interaction with them. There's always an agenda. You know, there always has to be some specific goal. I just want to get this finished and then finish the conversation. Do you have time to just have a conversation or just a normal chat? Samishti Goshti. So I feel like I spend time finding faults, then being grateful or positive. So if you find yourself that you're spending a lot of time finding faults in other people and less time being grateful or positive for the things that you have in your life, the devotees that you have, the opportunities that you have, the opportunity to connect to scripture, all these various things. The next question, I have health issues which are related to stress, anxiety, or irregular habits. And the next one is, I have not taken a holiday in a year. So disconnect to connect. And according to scripture, it does say that, Maharaj is also saying that in scripture, it does say that we should take some recreational time. Not too much, but just some, you know, so it's important to take a holiday. And that can mean also going to Vrindavan, so many devotees are going to have been to Vrindavan during Kartik. My partner and family complain that I do not have enough time for them. Is that a 0 or 1 for you? I do not have time for self-development, exploring things I'm interested in. So if you're interested in learning a new language, Sanskrit, Hindi, Bengali, it could be any language. Do you have time for that? For doing those activities? If you want to learn an instrument, do you have time for that? If an emergency comes up in my life, I find it difficult to adjust. So is everything in your life so structured that you can't create even a small space of unstructured of time for any unstructured event that occurs spontaneously? And then the last question is most of my interactions with people are about getting things done. Yeah, so the scoring system, just reflecting on the scoring system, and this is really interesting. So if you've got 0 to 6, that's great. That's great. So, you know, if it's 1 is a yes, that's, you know, that you're having trouble with this, then, you know, that's increasing the scores. If it's lower, then that's basically great. So 0 to 6 points, that's great. 7 to 13, you need to adjust. And then 14 to 20, a big change is required. So these are key questions that help you understand if your life is out of balance. So if your life is out of balance, then you will have regrets. Like Mara is saying that if it's out of balance, then you'll have regrets, because one cannot check or buy back time, because time is invaluable. Time is invaluable. So if you feel like, you know, you've got like a high score, then make that big change. Make that big change, because you can't buy back time. And then Maharaj further starts speaking about sort of how to fit in activities. And he takes a Krishna conscious perspective on it. And he refers to the Bhagavad Gita and the situation that Arjuna was in. And for me to find a healthy balance in my life, I need to find time. I need to make time, you know. And the first point he was saying that he needs to take time out to reflect and ask questions. So even Arjuna did this on a battlefield. So he was bewildered and he didn't want to fight. But before deciding that he would leave, he took time out and reflected. And then he asked questions. The more difficult, the better, because the most difficult require the most significant change. So Arjuna asked Krishna to take him to the battlefield, and then he asked Krishna questions because he didn't know what to do. He got a mentor and took instruction. And then other things like know your purpose. What is your dharma? So we're not talking about your eternal dharma, but your dharma in this life. You find your varna, you find your ashram. If you're a Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, and then what ashram is good for you? Is it brahmacharya? Is it grahastha? So you have to find yourself. So you have to take time out to do these things. And often it's just people can think, or devotees, I thought initially when I joined Krishna consciousness that it's all about just practicing bhakti. Like all I need to do is chant Hare Krishna. It's very simple, yes. But there's other things in life that need to be addressed. So I have to find the balance and make time for activities so I can grow my Krishna consciousness, so I can see and connect with Shastra better. So moving on. So activities. So we're looking at activities related to time now. So these are in reference to the 3 modes of material nature. So 3 modes of material nature can be applied in very many contexts. It can be applied to a particular job. It can be applied to how one is thinking, how one is undertaking their activities. But here we're trying to look at reflecting on the utilization of time in reference to the 3 modes of material nature. So please engage with me on this one and make some suggestions on what you would place under the different modes. So we could think of activities that are related to 3 different modes of in relation to time. So what I mean here is that we are focusing on the utilization. So how can one use a time when they are being influenced by the different modes? So I'll start, and then maybe you can add as well. Maybe you can add. So when one is in the mode of goodness, how one utilizes their time is they do it with gratitude. So being grateful for the time that one can utilize to engage themselves in serving others. So that's with gratitude. So that's one meditation one can have before engaging in their activity. and have a gratitude for that time to be able to serve others. So that's in the mode of goodness. Does anyone have any other suggestions on how one can utilize their time and engage that time in the mode of goodness?
Prabhuji, reading the Shastras.
Yes, yeah, reading the Shastras. Yes, Mataji, that's again an activity, but as in like in the sense that, yes, that's definitely the mode of goodness, and that connects one definitely straight away. But before one starts their activities, how else, for example, before you read Shastra, what can you do? Like we've done it. Ashwin Prabhu's son did it before we connected with Shastras.
So Mangalacharan or do a kirtan.
Yeah, that's it. Like that's it, Mataji. Yeah, that's it. So with a prayerful mood, before starting an activity, and you ask for example, you can ask for strength to undertake an activity in the correct mood. So that's in the mode of goodness, that time is being utilized with the correct consciousness. Yes, Mataji. Anyone else?
So Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So when we do some seva, which involves others, so we do it together with the aim of engaging others in Krishna consciousness.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, Mati. That's a great way to engage one's time and other people's time. That's a really good point. It's not just about engaging our time, but it's also about engaging other people's, other devotees' time. We might be preaching, we might engage other people in book distribution, in kirtan, in making prasadam, in making garlands. So this is Shuddha Bhakti. This is Shuddha Bhakti. Yeah, so you're basically engaging everyone in performing devotional service. That's really nice, Mati. Thank you for contributing that. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think help others as well. Like if somebody needs a lift going to the temple or any that kind of help.
Yes, right, yeah. It says in the Bhagavatam that people's whose ears are not utilized in the service of Krishna are like the ears of a snake. They don't exist, and people's whose feet are not utilized in going to the temple are just like tree trunks. Yeah, so that's a really nice point, Mataji. Yeah, so yes, we can go to the temple. We can do physical activities. We can do Gau Seva at the temple. Yeah, again, book distribution is physically going outside and doing that. Sankirtan also. So going back to the mode of goodness. So thank you, Masli, for that contribution. So we can also utilize our time with structure. So by that I mean knowing how one is using their time. So having appropriate boundaries around time for the use for different activities. So that means not spending hours on social media, for example. You know, so I know some people at work, for example, once they're on their phone, they start scrolling and their break is gone. Or sometimes when I'm traveling, you see people on the train just observing what they're doing. And so many people are just in their phone, just scrolling. And that's how time passes, you know. So by having an appropriate structure around time and having healthy boundaries around time, we know how we're going to utilize that time correctly. So that's in the mode of goodness. So I'll move on to the mode. Yes, and then some other points also is we do it with knowledge. So we're understanding how the use of one time is helping them move forward in achieving their goals. So that's also in the mode of goodness. So if I know I'm going to utilize my time in studying scripture, then I know how this is going to help me. So with knowledge, I understand this is going to help me move forward in Krishna consciousness, because the Shastra says that by reading Bhagavatam, the heart is cleansed. So we know that it's true and it's happening. So we're undertaking our activities, our utilization of time with knowledge that the utilization in this particular activity is going to help me move forward in becoming Krishna conscious. So, and then with endurance, when I say with endurance, what I mean by this is being consistent with one's time. So being consistent in the sense that waking up in the morning, utilizing the time for japa, for prayer, for journaling, for serving the deity in the afternoon. I know there's many devotees, for example, if they are Brahmin initiated, they have particular times in the day where they have to do their Gayatri mantra. So they're consistently, and even devotees that are doing their japa at a particular time of the day, like Brahma Muhurta, like today is Bhishma Panchaka. And it's a great time to talk about this verse, by the way. The most appropriate time to speak about this verse, about Bhishma Dev. So with endurance is being consistent over time with one's time in terms of activities that they do. So japa, being consistent, being on time with your Gayatri, even when before going to sleep, one can do extra japa, one can do some journaling, do some reading. So there's different times in there, and being consistent and having this consistent pattern through time, that's what makes a big change. That's what these small incremental changes results in big change. So then moving on to mode of passion. So mode of passion is characterized by being sweet at the start and then bitter at the end, right? So one can undertake the utilization of time with determination, like, yes, I'm going to utilize this time, and then start undertaking the activity. And then with the mode of passion, it deteriorates over time. We know that from the Shastra. So determination fades over time. And they can undertake their activities with a focus on the result. So mode of goodness is not focusing on the result. Mode of passion is the results always in the forefront of the mind. So this may mean working very late at night or not planning ahead, which means that you have to work strange work hours. And then this also can mean that there's little structure in your day. So Srila Prabhupada basically refers to these people as busy fools. You know, and quite honestly, I've had that as well. You know, where I've had little structure. I've tried to create some structure, and it's not planned out, and I've had to push through, and the mode of passion is kicked in. Yeah, and then with little knowledge. So with this, I mean by little knowledge of how use of one's time is helping them move forward in reaching their goals. So you may be utilizing your time, but you don't exactly know how utilizing this time is going to help you move forward in achieving your goal in becoming Krishna conscious, or understanding a particular topic when it comes to work. Because again, you know, they are, for example, I'm a grahastha, I have bills to pay, I have a house to maintain. And by developing knowledge, even if it's material knowledge, I'm utilizing it in the service of Krishna, in the sense I'm doing my dharma at work. I'm using the Lakshmi, and I'm using it in activities and contributing to different services and different people in Krishna consciousness. You know, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says 247. One is one can undertake the activities, but they're not entitled to the result of the activity. So we're undertaking the activities, but we're not worrying about the result. But someone that's in a mode of passion, they have very little knowledge of what they're actually doing and how their time's being utilized to reach the goal of what they're trying to do. Has anyone else got any examples? So please share some examples of mode of passion, and how mode of passion can influence the use of time.
I think for me, it's work as well, time management at work.
Yeah.
And very, very similar to what you just mentioned. So waking up in the morning and, you know, you plan something and you want to do your Krishna consciousness activities. You want to read some books, you some shastras, or you want to finish your japa rounds, and then you're not able to do it, and it's time to get to work. And then by the end of the day, you've got that long list of things to do, and you feel guilty or panicking of not being able to finish that within the stipulated time. So that's a major problem for me, and I really need to change that.
Please carry on with it. Please.
I was sorry, Prabhuji, probably I'm taking too much time over here.
No, it's okay. Please go ahead.
It's 30 seconds more. I was actually listening to teaching by His Grace Amarendra Prabhu on YouTube, and he was talking about time, and he mentioned that the way he actually what really helps him is he does his timetable right before sleeping. He does his timetable as to what he's going to do the first thing in the morning, and he sets that up until 9 o'clock in the morning. That's all to do with Krishna. And then 9 till 6, you keep in mind that it is going to be for your work. But you
Yes.
also, you can also keep an alarm on your phone to
Yes.
remind yourself of Krishna every now and then, just so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you don't completely forget about Krishna during your work.
Yeah.
And
No,
then
my,
after
yeah.
6 o'clock, it's back to Krishna again, and your Krishna conscious or your Krishna related activities.
No, Matthew, that's such a good point. That's such a good point, because people, there's often this concept of people that are sort of non-devotees, or even if there's a concept that's taught that we should be thinking about sort of economic development all the time. Excuse me. So what people do is they'll often what happens is they just wake up in time to get to work. So they work their whole life by getting up just on time to get to work, but they never have any time for themselves. So what we try to do is we wake up earlier, so we make time for ourselves, and there's a massive psychological change. There's a reduction in stress, improvement in mental health, all these other benefits. These are additional side benefits of performing Sana Bhakti in the morning and at different times in the day. So for example, I've got an alarm at 12 o'clock. I've got an alarm at 5 o'clock. You know, and I'm sure devotees at Brahman and Nishi, they have particular times in the day where they have to do their Gayatri. So they're automatically remembering Krishna because of the chanting of the Gayatri mantra, because of that element of their sadhana bhakti. So yes, Matthew, amazing. That's very good. So that's a really good tip. So you can have like a diary, for example, before you're going to sleep, in terms of what activities you're going to do, waking up earlier, and making that commitment to make that change. And then also having times, alarms in the day where you can be reminded of Krishna. For example, you can have one at 12 o'clock, you can have one at 3 o'clock, one at 5 o'clock, and then you can have a particular alarm. For example, we have an alarm at home, a personal one, at 9:30, we put the deities to sleep. So we have that set time. So there's a set time for different activities, so you can remind yourself. So that creates structure. So that's again in the mode of goodness. Thank you, Matthew, for that. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. So time utilized in the mode of ignorance is often done with a grudge. So this may involve using one's time begrudgingly. For example, your wife or someone may ask you for some support while doing an activity, but you have this intention of doing something else, and they've roped you into doing this activity, or they've requested that you do this activity very nicely, not being very rude, very nice. And instead of doing the activity with gratitude, one does it begrudgingly. So that's time utilized in a mode of ignorance. That's with no focus, going from one activity to another without setting boundaries, you know, which actually results in the loss of time and an increase in stress and deterioration of the body and overall health. So that's time utilized in the mode of ignorance. So if you can think of examples, please just in reflection, just write these down. And the more conscious you become of these, then the more that's when you can start taking action against the patterns of behavior when it comes to utilization of time. Again, so with mode of ignorance, there's no structure. So this is what it will involve using one's time in activities such as playing games late at night or watching TV very late at night. So this ultimately has a negative effect on other areas of your life. So for example, if you go to sleep late, you wake up late. So one thing my Guru Maharaj says, if you go to sleep early, you rise early. It's really simple. It's really, really simple, but so difficult to do. And then lastly, mode of ignorance, utilization of time is done with no knowledge. So no knowledge of how one should use one's time in helping them move forward in reaching their goals. So they have no knowledge on how to use their time to help them move forward in Krishna consciousness, or even other aspects of their life also. So now I want to move away from sort of focusing on the modes. I want to sort of reflect on meditating on the acharyas in reference to time, in the context of time. So in the previous slide, we thought about how one can utilize time in reference to the three modes. So in this slide, so we'll consider how one can directly engage one's mind in reference to the different times of the days. So a nice meditation that I've done also is to develop some attraction to devotional service, is to meditate on different aspects in relation to time. So Before we start, I would like to read a section from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to provide some context. And this is on page 151 of the Nectar of Devotion. So this is just me quoting Prabhupada verbatim. So without relishing some sort of mellow or loving mood in one's activities, no one can continue to perform such activities. Similarly, in transcendental life of Krishna consciousness and devotional service, there must be some mellow or specific taste from the service. Generally, this mellow is experienced by chanting, hearing, worshipping in the temple, and being engaged in the service of the Lord. So when a person feels transcendental bliss, that is called relishing the mellow. To be more clear, we may understand that the various feelings of happiness derived from discharging devotional service may be termed mellows of devotional service. So I want everyone to reflect on this as almost like a mellow, sort of like an emotion that's generated and an appreciation in the context of time when we meditate on the acharyas. So I'm going to, so in order to do that, I'm developing a nice reflection for you. So I thought it would share in this slide, in which relates to time in terms of the activities in the day of the different acharyas. So these are Nitya Siddha Vaishnavas. So these timetables serve as an inspiration to those who perform sadhana bhakti, who are Nitya Buddhas. I personally won't try to imitate the schedule because I know I won't be able to even last one day doing this schedule. So first we have Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And so first what he would do in 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. he would rest. And then he wake up at 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. he would write. And then from 4 a.m. to 4:30 a.m. he would rest, half an hour. And then from 4:30 to 7 a.m. do his japa, chant his japa. From 7 to 7:30 do his correspondence, writing his letters. And then from 7:30 to 9:30 study Shastra. And from 9:30 to 10 a.m. he would bathe and take simple prasadam. From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. he would do his court duties. And then from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. refresh at home, and then return back to his court duties from 2 to 5. And then from 5 to 7 p.m. he would translate Sanskrit Shastras to Bengali. And then from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. bathe and take simple prasadam. So we can just meditate on how the acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, utilize his time. We can think about that and use that as inspiration. Yes, okay, I want to do more reading. I want to do more for the deities in the morning. I want to do an arti in the morning. I serve the deities, but I'd like to make time for Guru Puja in the morning. I'd like to do that service. So I'll add an extra, I wake up 15, 20 minutes earlier so I can do Guru Puja in the morning. I can do extra reading in the evening before bedtime. I can make time to contact a devotee. I can make time to do a service. I can, all these various things, and utilizing one time in Krishna consciousness. This is a nice meditation and inspiration for us, for me, on what I can do, because they did so much. They did so much for us. So now we look at the approximate schedule of Srila Prabhupada in London. So this is written by Her Grace Yamuna Devi Dasi. So 1 a.m. Prabhupada would rise, chant his japa and translate until 3:30. And at 3:30 he do his arti in his room. And then from 4:30 a.m. he'll attend arti, Bhagavatam class, and kirtan in the main temple. 6:30 he would go on his morning walk, which is about an hour, and he takes Ayurvedic medicine and light breakfast as well. And then from 9 a.m. he chants kirtan or sings prayer alone in his room. Sometimes he requests other devotees to also join and playing instruments. And then 10 a.m. he dictates letters, instructs devotees, or has guests. And then 12 p.m. takes a massage, bathes, and then chants Gayatri Mantra. And then 1 p.m. on his lunch prasadam, chants more rounds of japa, and then rests. 4:30 takes a little fresh fruit, frequently sits with the devotees for informal talks. And then 6:30 p.m. attends the evening arti in his room, and occasionally respects a very light meal. And also has visitors who he attends to for discussion. And then 10:30 to 11, between that time, 10:30 to 11 p.m., he retires. So by meditating on the activities of Acharya, we become very conscious about how we are using our time. So the first step is to become conscious, and then we elevate our activities to make them Krishna conscious. So by meditating on the pure devotees of Krishna, we can develop some taste by bringing our attention to Krishna with a desire that one day the remembrance of Krishna comes automatically, because we're meditating on the personalities of pure devotees who are serving Krishna. Because we're developing that attraction to them, then one day I pray that I can automatically generate some memory and some appreciation for Acharyas, not forcefully or just as in doing it with meditation. It instantly comes to my mind like, oh, this is what Prabhupada was doing at this time. What am I doing at my time? What am I doing right now? Oh, this is what Prabhupada was doing. Maybe I can do some reading. Something like that. So that's a nice meditation. So maybe you can think of how you're using your time by actually having some gratitude, some appreciation for what the Acharyas used to do with their time, and using that as inspiration, not trying to imitate it. Yeah. And then lastly, before we finish up, we've got a couple of minutes left. So this is something I'd like everyone to go away and reflect on and answer these questions for yourself. So through the session today, so we appreciate the importance of time. It's non-different from Krishna. We can use our time to take care of ourselves, to perform devotional service, to offer our work to Krishna, do service in our local temple, give time to our families, to show the power of how Krishna consciousness is transforming one's life. That's also prachar and achar. So by how one's behavior, we're showing the example by one's behavior on how powerful Krishna consciousness is in terms of transformation, causing the transformation in the heart and also in the activity. So I'd like everyone to reflect on the following questions and then write the answers for personal development. So if you identify an opportunity, no matter how small, and make a change, then you will notice some change. So you identify an opportunity, you make a small change, and you'll notice some change. But if you identify an opportunity and again, no matter how small, and you make a big change, then you most definitely will notice a big change in your life. So please be honest with yourself when answering these questions. So do I accept that one of the treasures that I have in my life is time? So what treasure do I inherit at birth? And that's time. We've discussed how important time is. But do I accept that one of these treasures is time? Do I value my time? Please be honest with yourself. So how do I lose this treasure daily? How do I lose the time daily? How do I lose it? So this is a good exercise to contemplate and reflect on where I'm losing time in the day. And then maybe we can cut back on that time. Maybe we can utilize that time in a better way, or because we become conscious of it, we can do something about it. If you're not aware of it, then we can't do anything about it. And how can I best use my time? So in this context, please be gentle with yourself. So make the change that you're comfortable with, that you feel comfortable with. And so if, for example, you have the desire to wake up early morning, Mangal, Brahma Muhurta time, and you haven't been, which is okay, it's fine. So please maybe just set an alarm 15 minutes earlier every day until you get to that time, or just 15 minutes earlier to do some extra rounds. So how can you best use the time? Just the context is, please be gentle with yourself. Don't try to do it in the mode of passion. Please do it in the mode of goodness, with some structure, with gratitude, maybe with a prayerful mood. So all these things to build up and sort of to be consistent with that time. So the endurance is required. It's not just about doing it once. It's about doing it consistently over time. So it's important to seek guidance from the experienced senior Vaishnavas, so who know you well and are happy to help you. So that's an important point I'd like to make. So you can complete the exercise with a pen and paper, and then you can do these every week to start with, and eventually you'll be automatically, consciously thinking, okay, actually this is a waste of my time, without having to sort of identify it. You identify it instantly because you've done it so many times with a pen and paper that you'll very easily pick it up. You're very conscious of it. So then you can utilize that time correctly in your different services, in your different activities, as part of your Dharma, as part of your Krishna conscious activities. So today we looked at the concept of time, 3 modes of time, meditation with your time. So you can meditate on different things. You don't have to just meditate on the acharyas. You can meditate on, there's the Living Name. That's a really nice book with so many different meditations. Sachin Maharaj has got some beautiful meditations about the holy name. So you can do those meditations also. So that might generate some inspiration to chant better, to utilize one's time more effectively when they're chanting. And then we did the activity in this the questions that I asked you, for you to take away something for you to reflect on. And I'll open it up to questions now, and I'll stop sharing my slides. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you so much. But before we, I think it is now 9 o'clock in Kenya, so it is time to retire. So many of us devotees had joined but retired, and I didn't get a time in between your when you were speaking to introduce you, but I would like to introduce you now. BirChandra Das Prabhuji is a disciple of Kadamba Kanana Swami, and he has been practicing Krishna consciousness since the last 8 years. He has completed the Bhakti Shastri and is currently studying the Srimad Bhagavatam at the Mayapur Institute. And Prabhuji and his wife are based in the UK, where they serve as their local yatra. He is a senior analyst by profession and holds a master's and a PhD degree in economics. So you can see the caliber, and it is reflecting in his presentation and this session as well. So thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this valuable time that you have given, and you, I know, rushed from work just to join us, and we really appreciate that. So are there any questions? I know we are cognizant of the time, but this is the first time Prabhuji has joined us. So I think we can extend it. It's already 9 in Kenya now. And we had our mentors, which is Mansi Ganga Mataji and Path Prema Prabhu. They had joined us in the session, but Karthik and lots of visitors at the temple. They had to.
Thank you so much.
So are there any questions or comments? I think Prabhuji has left us with a lot of questions and comments and lots of reflections to do and lots of homework to do for this week. But are there any questions and comments from the group?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for such a wonderful class today. Only I think I personally have difficulties in, because sometimes like the whole family is not Krishna conscious, and I like to plan my day, especially I plan it a day before, and but I always have a problem with consistency, because something different crops up during the day and things like that. So what is your advice regarding that?
Mataji, thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna, it's a pleasure to meet you, Mataji, via the Zoom, and thank you so much for your question. So Mataji, what I'd say is because you're already aware that there's this lack of consistency, the attempt, so just try to find the time, try to find pockets of time, but then try to become more conscious in the sense that consistency is required. So the more you desire it, the more you pray. So what I've done in the past also is, if I'm not able to achieve something, I go in front of the deities, I pay obeisances to deities. I sit in front of the deities and I fold my hands and I pray to them that I can achieve this goal. I can achieve this goal. And I do it, and I keep doing it consistently, and then things change, Mataji. I promise you, things will change. Things will change. So if you go in front of the deity, pray for this again and again, keep trying, stay determined, keep trying, have the endurance, be consistent. It will change, Mataji. It will change, because the fact that you're already aware of it, that's the change. That's already started, Mataji. Thank you.
That's wonderful advice, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, Panchali Mataji, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it's probably a very silly question, but say for example, how do you prioritize? So it's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock when this class starts in the UK, and 5 o'clock. Although you are supposed to finish your work, but many a times you don't. And Kirtika Mataji knows even when the classes started at 6 o'clock our time, many a times I would join really late because you tend to finish work at 5 and then it drags on until 6, etc. So if you're doing your work and then, you know, there's a Bhagavatam class that starts, can you, and you're not prioritizing, you're not able to prioritize the Bhagavatam session, is that an offense to prioritize work over Krishna?
You're just doing you're doing your duty. You also have to do your duty, Mataji. Thank you so much for your question, first of all, and thank you, Johnny, for the session, Matthew. Thank you so much. I think from my experience, if I can't do I can't join a particular sangha, it doesn't mean that I can't listen to that sangha, because these sessions are recorded, so you can always listen to them after. You can listen to them after. So that's also the benefit of this tool. For example, Prabhupada, he started recording. He recorded his lectures, his voice recordings. He noted everything. Everything is in his books. So that way we can associate with Prabhupada. We don't have to be there in person, but we can associate with him. Similarly, you don't have to be here, but at the same time, you can still associate with the Bhagavatam by actually joining the session, the pre-recorded one, and just listening in, Mataji. So you don't have to be there. Mm-hmm. If you got any questions, you can always get the email details and then ask the questions also that way. So sometimes it's not possible to join when you want to, but that can also be a test. That can be like Krishna could be testing you, in the sense that, do you really want to join this Bhagavatam? Okay, I'm not going to let you join this one. I want to see how much you want to listen to Bhagavatam. Mm-hmm. That could also be a test, Mataji. So please stay determined. Stay determined. Please keep joining us as often as you can. Join, Mataji. Please just join. Yeah, it doesn't have to be mine. It can be anyone's, and it can be pre-recorded. Listen to any lecture. Listening is important. It doesn't have to be a particular person, topic, but it is also important to enjoy your Krishna consciousness in the sense that you relish a particular topic. If you relish that topic, please listen to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I think what Panchali Mataji said, I think she, since 4:45, she must be thinking, I have to join the class. So is this a meditation as well, that she's thinking of Krishna, and
because that desire is there, Mataji. That desire is there. You know, that desire has to start. If my mind is like, oh, there's a sangha, I don't want to join, it's okay, I'm working. If the desire is there, that means the attachment is there, because they're attached to listening to the Bhagavatam, associating with devotees. But at the same time, it's also important not to feel guilty or feel shame, because that's going to take you away from Krishna. It's important to have the motivation, but stay determined, not to feel guilty or shame for not being able to join. That's really important.
Are there any other questions or comments? Prabhuji, if I may ask a quick question. Yes. In this day and age, you said you should have time to reflect. And I mean, we are doing so many things. I mean, we are busy fools. So it's difficult to get that time in the day to reflect. In fact, with the social media and WhatsApp and everything, you just don't even think of what people are asking you, and you have given the answer to it. Yes. So I think we are lacking that, and we are need to regress and put a stop to things. But how do we do that? I think we are so far into.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Thank you, Mataji, for your service, for holding this session. Really appreciate it for the opportunity to speak. Thank you so much, Mataji. You're very kind as well, Mataji, with your communication with me. So thank you so much, Mataji. So when it comes to actually starting something, again, it's the desire is there first of all. But then once the desire is there, for example, I have my phone, and I have my journal on my phone. I have my gratitude journal on my phone. I have my certain prayers I read from the Bible. I pick them and I put them in my phone, and I recite those prayers and develop like a meditation. I can just do it literally. You can just take 5 minutes, Mataji. I can just quickly have a set of questions, Like, what am I doing? Where am I at? How am I utilizing my time? Do I feel like I utilize my time correctly today? How better can I utilize my time? So you can ask those 3 questions to yourself, just really quick 3 questions. What time is it? Where I am? How am I feeling about utilizing my time? How can I best utilize my time? So if you answer those questions, the mind is already, you're showing to yourself that you feel like you're utilizing it incorrectly, but then you can develop a plan in your journal on how you can utilize it properly in Krishna consciousness. That means you're almost teaching yourself on how to utilize that time properly. And it doesn't take long, Matthew, just literally 3 minutes. You can have like a 5-minute journal. You can take a 5-minute break, because they have this, for example, you can work for 45 minutes, 15 minutes, take a 5-minute break. And in that 5 minutes, you can just step away from your computer and just be on your phone and journal really quickly for 5 minutes. That's literally what I do, Matthew. Is like, if I feel, I journal regularly, Matthew. I journal regularly with a few of the devotees like Nikhil Gohar Prabhu. He also journals. Kamal Prabhu also journals. So it's also an art in itself, learning how to journal, Matthew. But just ask yourself, find some questions that you want to answer those questions, ask those questions to yourself, and then take 5 minutes and just step away from the computer, ask those questions, and then you can get back to work, Matthew. Yeah. That's how I do it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's going to be really useful. If you can share some of your journaling.
No, Matthew, it's very personal.
But at least the questions. Just
yes,
the
yeah,
questions.
I can, yeah, sure, of course, yeah, I can. If it's a particular topic, we can think about some questions to answer. But there's also a nice course by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, and he's called the Yoga of Journaling, and the Manna will sometimes run it, and he also runs some courses on his own website, some advanced courses for journaling, things like that, Matthew. Very useful, very useful. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? There are no more questions or comments, I think, because we have run out of time as well.
Yes.
I'd like to
apologize for running over.
Kamal Prabhuji and Nikhil Prabhuji, who are also our mentors in this group. So thank you very much for giving your time today and spending this 1 hour with us. I'd like to close this session by by thanking Prabhuji and chanting the Maha Mantra once to glorify you, Prabhuji. So everybody kindly unmute and let's chant. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, everyone. Keep serving you. Thank you so much, everyone.
BirChandra.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Bye.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for the lovely class, Prabhuji. Hare Bye.
Thank you, Matthew.